So as I was driving home from this movie, I was thinking, how did this movie come about? It was probably a conversation something like this.
You got a movie, and you gotta make a movie, and it's gonna be cool. You have me and you, and it'll be a lot of fun.
But you gotta do it!
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of money to make the two of us together the same movies. Well, they want to see that.
I'm paraphrasing, of course. Escape Plan, formerly known as The Tomb, starring Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's really all I need to know, and I am there. Now, Stallone in this movie plays a character who, for a living, breaks out of prisons. He is hired to go to various prisons, pretend to be a normal inmate. He has maybe like one person in the entire prison who knows what's going on, to be able to find the structural weaknesses of this facility. And when he is hired to go into this prison, that's this humongously secret prison, where the warden is Jim Caviezel, he meets Arnold Schwarzenegger there, and they decide to team up once they realize there's a bit of a setup going on here, and not everything is how it seems. Now, I am a big fan of these guys, really. I mean, I grew up watching Stallone movies, I grew up watching Schwarzenegger movies, and just seeing these guys on screen is entertaining in itself. Just seeing these guys sit down and have a conversation in a movie, that's fun for me. And this seemed like a really good idea. You know, Stallone and Schwarzenegger trying to break out of a prison, because I like prison break movies. Historically, they're pretty fun movies generally, if they're done well. I mean, Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz, for goodness sake, Shawshank Redemption, the greatest prison break movie ever. And that's really where this movie is a lot of fun. The planning and the actual execution of the eventual escape. Because everything leading up to that, it was like a movie that steadily got a little bit better, because it started out very mediocrely. Like the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh boy, this should be a lot better than it is. But honestly, as soon as Stallone met Schwarzenegger in the movie, and these two actors got to bounce off each other, and their charisma exploded, it was like, okay, this movie is a lot of fun. And from then on, I really enjoyed Escape Plan, surprisingly. It actually has a lot of pretty cool elements to it. And it's not just that I enjoy watching Schwarzenegger with a big gun in slow motion and Stallone kicking ass all over the place. That is awesome if it's done well, and if there's a story behind it you can actually care about. And in this movie there is. There are certain things about it where you're like, okay, I actually want to see this happen. I want to see this work out. And for that reason, I was more into the movie than I would have been if it was just,
hey, you want to break out of the prison? And you go in there, and we'll get the pins, we'll stick it in the door, and you take your giant gun and you put it in your thing. I'll do it! I'll do it!
Honestly, I'd pay to see that too. But there was actually a story behind the movie that I was invested in, which is pretty cool. Another thing I really liked about this movie was actually Jim Caviezel as the warden, essentially the main villain of the movie, and I thought he did a really good job as the villain. He was very cold. You know, you couldn't really see any emotion in his eyes. He didn't care at all about these people. That's the kind of guy you would need to run a facility this brutal. And Jim Caviezel really pulled it off in this movie. I thought he really added something good to this movie. But the film never got to the point where it took itself too seriously. And that's something I enjoyed too, because with a film like this, it's very much so a Friday night, midnight type movie where you get some pizza, some popcorn, some soda or whatever, and you pop in Escape Plan and you have some fun with it. And the movie understood that because it had the slow motion moments, you know, it had the big one-liners. There were elements to the movie that could have been a lot better. There was a certain part to the film, whenever it cut away from the prison, I was almost always bored. You know, there were certain scenes with characters outside of the facility that bored me. And I wish that it kind of just always stayed in the prison. I think that's where the film faltered a lot. It would cut away from the prison and go to these other characters who are doing things outside. And I was like, I don't care about this at all. Just get away from these characters. They're pointless characters. I understand why they're there, but they're not interesting remotely. And I think that the film always lost something whenever it cut away from the facility. Also, there was one moment in the movie towards the end where I was actually truly getting into the film. I was really, really into it. And they just threw this really cheesy line in there and I was like, not necessary at all. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it just kind of drained the moment for me, unfortunately. But Escape Plan kind of caught me off guard, actually. I was very surprised by how much fun I had with this movie. The charisma of Stallone and Schwarzenegger really helped, and Jim Caviezel was really good in the movie as well. I'm going to give it a B. I mean, this movie just feels like it came out in 1997, which is really cool to me. Guys, thanks very much for watching, and as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.